I genuinely believed I was acting as a loyal wife, a partner in the trenches, when I sold my mom's jewelry to pay his debt. But then I saw his bank app, and the string of zeros staring back at me shattered my heart faster than a hammer hitting glass. For 2 weeks, I had lived in a state of suffocating panic, watching my husband pace the floorboards of our home, wringing his hands and swearing that we were days away from losing everything. He told me the IRS was coming, that the liens were filed, and that we would be destitute by the end of the month if he didn't come up with $50,000. I looked at the fear in his eyes, and I didn't see a liar. I saw the man I had loved for 15 years. So I did the unthinkable. I took the velvet box from the back of my closet, the one that smelled like lavender and my mother's Sunday perfume. And I traded 3 generations of history for a cashier's check to save a man who was already swimming in cash. Before I tell you how I went from a grieving daughter to a woman plotting a revenge so cold it could freeze hell over, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like this video. If you have ever sacrificed a piece of yourself for someone who wouldn't even inconvenience themselves for you, you are in the right place. Grab your tea, honey, because this story is gonna burn. My name is Beatrice, and I am 54 years old. I've spent my life being the steady hand. I worked as a school administrator for 30 years, organizing chaos, putting out fires, and making sure everyone else had what they needed. I retired 2 years ago with a decent pension and a dream of finally resting. My husband Kenneth was different. He was a serial entrepreneur, a man who chased dreams like they were butterflies. Sometimes he caught them and we lived high. Sometimes he missed and we tightened our belts. I was used to the roller coaster. I was the safety bar. But this time felt different. It started on a Tuesday evening. Kenneth came home early, which was never a good sign. He looked gray. He was sweating through his dress shirt, and he poured himself a drink with a hand that shook so bad the ice clattered against the glass like wind chimes in a storm. "BA," he whispered, collapsing onto the sofa. "I messed up. I really messed up this time." I sat next to him, rubbing his back. "What is it, Ken? Is it the new logistics business?" "It's the taxes," he choked out. I thought my accountant handled the payroll taxes for the last 3 quarters. He didn't. He pocketed the money and skipped town. The IRS sent a notice today, intent to levy. They're going to seize the accounts, B. They're going to put a lien on the house. If I don't pay $50,000 by Friday, they lock the doors. My stomach dropped. $50,000. We didn't have $50,000 liquid. My pension was a monthly drip, not a flood. Our savings had been depleted by his last venture, a car wash that went under during the pandemic. "We can get a loan," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "A second mortgage?" "No time," he groaned, burying his face in his hands. "With the lien notice, no bank will touch us. I've tried everyone. My friends, my business partners. Nobody has that kind of cash lying around. We're going to lose the house, B. The house you love. I'm so sorry." He started to cry. Ugly, heaving sobs wrecked his body. Kenneth was a proud man. Seeing him break down like that terrified me. This wasn't just about money. It was about our survival. I looked around the living room. I looked at the photos on the mantle. I looked at the life we had built. I couldn't let it disappear. "I have the money," I said softly. Kenneth stopped crying. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "What? How?" "Your retirement account is locked." "Not money," I said, standing up. "Assets." I walked into our bedroom and went to the top shelf of the closet. I pulled down the heavy wooden jewelry box. It had belonged to my mother and her mother before her. I opened it. Inside, nestled in aged satin, was the set. It was heavy gold, 24 karat, a thick rope chain necklace with a diamond-encrusted pendant, matching heavy gold bangles, and earrings that dragged on your lobes. My mother, a woman who cleaned houses for a living, had bought piece by piece over 40 years. It was her insurance policy. She used to tell me, "Bia, paper money burns. Gold stays. If the world ends, you can eat off this necklace." I ran my fingers over the cold metal. I felt my mother's presence. I remembered her wearing this set to church on Easter, her head held high, looking like a queen despite her swollen knuckles. "Bia, no," Kenneth said from the doorway. He was standing there, looking at the gold with a hunger he tried to mask as concern. "That's your mother's. I can't ask you to do that." "You didn't ask," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm offering." If we lose the house, I have nowhere to keep this safe anyway. It's just metal, Ken. You're my husband. I swear to you, he said, rushing over and grabbing my hands. I swear, B, as soon as the business turns around next month, I will buy it back. Every piece. I'll replace it with bigger diamonds. You won't be without it for long. I nodded, blinking back tears. I know you will. The next morning was the hardest walk of my life. We went to a high-end jeweler downtown, a place that bought estate pieces. I laid the necklace, the bracelets, and the earrings on the velvet counter. The jeweler, a man with a monocle who smelled of mints, examined them for 20 minutes. It's exquisite workmanship, he murmured. Old world, you don't see gold weight like this anymore. How much? Kenneth asked. He was bouncing on the balls of his feet, anxious. The gold weight alone is significant, the jeweler said. With the stones, I can offer $52,000. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. It was worth so much more in sentiment, but it was exactly what we needed. We'll take it, Kenneth said quickly. I signed the papers. I watched the jeweler sweep my mother's legacy into a drawer. I felt light, untethered, like I had sold a piece of my own skeleton. Kenneth took the check. He hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. You saved us, Bia. You saved us. He left immediately to go to the IRS office to pay the debt. He came back that night with a bottle of champagne and a lighter step. It's done, he said, pouring me a glass. The lien is lifted. We're safe. I love you, Beatrice. You're the best woman in the world. For the next week, things were peaceful. Kenneth was attentive. He cooked dinner. He rubbed my feet. I missed the jewelry. I felt naked without the knowledge that it was in the closet. But I told myself I had done the right thing. Then came Saturday morning. Kenneth was in the shower. He liked to take long, steaming showers on the weekends. He had left his phone on the nightstand next to me. Usually, I never touched his phone. We respected each other's privacy. But his phone started buzzing incessantly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was vibrating against the wood, rattling the glass of water I was trying to drink. I glanced over. It wasn't a text message. It was a notification from his bank app. First City Bank. I frowned. We banked at Chase. We had a joint account at Chase. I didn't know we had an account at First City. Another notification popped up. Balance alert. Your account ending in 4490 exceeds $500,000. Please review investment options. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen. $500,000? I looked at the bathroom door. I could hear Kenneth humming over the sound of the water. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. I picked up the phone. I knew his passcode. It was our anniversary. 1214. I typed it in. The phone unlocked. I tapped the First City Bank notification. It opened the app. It required a Face ID, but since the phone was already unlocked, it just asked for a PIN. I tried 1014 again. Access granted. The screen loaded, and there it was. Total balance, $2,450,000. I gasped, dropping the phone onto the duvet. $2.4 million. I picked it up again, my hands shaking violently. I clicked on the transaction history. There was a deposit from yesterday. Crypto liquidation plus $150,000. There was a deposit from last week. Venture payout plus $75,000. And then I saw the withdrawal from 3 days ago. Deposit $52,000. Check image available. He hadn't paid the IRS. He had deposited the check from the jeweler into his secret account. He didn't owe the IRS a dime. There was no lien. There was no tax trouble. He had lied. He had watched me cry over my mother's necklace. He had watched me sell the only thing she left me. And he had taken the money and thrown it onto a pile of $2 million he was hiding from me. I felt a scream building in my throat, a primal sound of betrayal that wanted to tear the roof off the house. But then I heard the water turn off in the bathroom. He was coming out. I quickly closed the app. I wiped the screen with my thumb. I put the phone back on the nightstand, exactly at the angle he left it. I laid back against the pillows, pulling the sheet up to my chin. My heart was hammering so loud I thought he would hear it from across the room. The bathroom door opened. Kenneth walked out, a towel wrapped around his waist, steam billowing around him. He looked happy. He looked refreshed. Good morning, beautiful, he beamed, grabbing his phone without looking at it. I'm thinking we go out for brunch today. Celebrate the new chapter. My treat. I looked at him. I looked at the man I had slept next to for 15 years. That sounds nice, Kenny. That I said. My voice was calm. It sounded dead. Great, he said, turning to the closet to get dressed. I stared at his back. He had stolen my past to fund a future he wasn't planning on sharing with me. Because you don't hide $2 million from your wife unless you are planning an exit. I wasn't going to brunch. I was going to war. The brunch was a masterclass in acting. I sat across from Kenneth at a white-clothed table on the patio of Le Jardin, watching him devour a lobster Benedict with the appetite of a man who didn't have a care in the world. He talked about new beginnings and how blessed we were to have weathered the storm. Every time he smiled, I saw the $2.4 million balance flashing behind his teeth. I saw the lie. I cut my omelet into tiny, precise squares, treating each piece of egg like it was a piece's betrayal I had to swallow. You're quiet today, Bia, he said, wiping butter from his lip. You okay? Just relieved, I lied, forcing a tight smile. It's been a hard week. Losing the jewelry? It takes a toll. I know, babe. He reached across and patted my hand. His palm was damp. But like I said, I'll replace it. Bigger and better. You won't even miss that old stuff. That old stuff. He was talking about my heritage like it was junk from a yard sale. I'm going to head to the club after this, he said, signaling for the check. Play a round of golf with Mike. Clear my head. You mind? Go ahead, I said. I have some laundry to do. He kissed my cheek, a Judas kiss if there ever was one, and drove off in his Range Rover. As soon as his taillights disappeared, the school administrator in me took over. I didn't go home to do laundry. I went home to conduct a forensic audit. I knew Kenneth. He was arrogant, but he was also sloppy. He relied on the fact that I trusted him implicitly. He didn't lock his home office door because he thought I had no interest in his business. I walked into his office. It smelled of stale coffee and secrets. I sat at his desk. I didn't try to hack his computer. I didn't need to yet. I needed physical evidence. I needed to know why he was hoarding that much cash. You don't stockpile $2 million unless you're planning to spend it on something big or someone new. I started with the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet. It was locked. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a flathead screwdriver, and popped the lock in 3 seconds. It was a cheap mechanism. Inside, tucked behind a folder labeled Tax Returns 2018, was a thick, glossy brochure. Azure Paradise Luxury Condos in Belize. I opened it. A floor plan was circled in red marker. The penthouse, 3-bedroom ocean view. Price $1.2 million. Paper clipped to the brochure was a flight itinerary. Passenger, Elena Rostova. Date, November 15th. November 15th. That was 3 weeks away. Elena Rostova. I didn't know the name, but I knew the type. Kenneth had a weakness for women who made him feel powerful. I checked the date on the itinerary again. He had booked this 2 days ago. The same day he told me we were broke. He wasn't just hiding money. He was leaving. He was going to let me sell my mother's jewelry, drain my pension to keep the lights on for a few more weeks, and then vanish to Belize with a woman named Elena, leaving me with nothing but a foreclosed house and a broken heart. I felt the room spin. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself. Okay, I whispered. Okay. I took pictures of everything. The brochure, the itinerary, the flight numbers. But there was one thing that still gnawed at me. The jewelry. He had $2.4 million. He didn't need the $52,000 from the jeweler. Why did he make me sell it? Was it just cruelty? Was it a test? I needed to know if I could get it back. If I moved fast, maybe the jeweler hadn't melted it down yet. I had access to our joint savings. There was about $5,000 in there. Maybe I could put a deposit down to hold it until I figured out how to get my hands on Kenneth's hoard. I drove downtown. The sign on the jeweler's door said Golden Estate. I walked in. The same man with the monocle looked up. He recognized me immediately. Mrs. Reynolds, he said, a strange look crossing his face. Back so soon? I made a mistake, I said, my voice breathless. I can't sell it. It was my mother's. I know we signed the papers, but I'm hoping. Is it still here? I can pay you back the $52,000 plus a fee. Just please tell me you haven't melted it. The jeweler frowned. He took off his monocle and polished it. Mrs. Reynolds, I don't have it. My heart shattered. You sold it already? It's been 3 days. I didn't sell it to a stranger, he said slowly. I sold it back to your husband. I froze. What? Mr. Reynolds came in about 2 hours after you left on Tuesday, the jeweler explained. He said you were too emotional about parting with it. He offered to buy it back immediately. He paid $60,000 for it, cash. He said he wanted to keep it as a surprise for you. The world tilted on its axis. Kenneth had bought it back. He had watched me cry. He had taken the check. He had deposited the check. And then he had driven right back here, like used his secret slush fund to buy my heritage back, and he was keeping it. Where was it? He took it with him? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yes, ma'am. Put it in his briefcase. I walked out of the shop without another word. I sat in my car and screamed. I screamed until my throat tasted like copper. It was a power move, a trophy. He stripped me of my assets so I couldn't use it to leave him, and then he bought it back so he could own it. And me. He was probably planning to give it to Elena. Or worse, keep it in his safe in Belize as a memento of the stupid wife he left behind. I wiped my face. I checked my makeup in the rearview mirror. He had the money, he had the girl, and he had my mother's gold. But he had made one fatal error. He brought the jewelry back into the house. If he bought it back on Tuesday and he hadn't left for Belize yet, it was in the house. Kenneth didn't trust banks with physical assets. He was too paranoid about seizures. Ironic, considering his lie. He kept his toys close. I drove home. I pulled into the garage. Kenneth wasn't back from golf yet. I went straight to the basement. Kenneth had a man cave down there, a wine cellar, a humidor, and a large bolted-down gun safe where he kept his important documents and his few firearms. I stood in front of the safe. It was a digital keypad. I didn't know the code. It wasn't our anniversary. I had tried that years ago when looking for a passport. But I knew Kenneth's vanity. I went back upstairs to his office. I looked at the framed photos on the wall. Kenneth winning a golf tournament. Kenneth shaking hands with the mayor. Kenneth standing next to his first Porsche, the license plate on the Porsche, KGR 99, his initials, his favorite number. I went back down to the basement. I typed in 54799. KGR on the keypad is 547. Error. I tried his social security last four. Error. I took a deep breath. Think, Beatrice. What does he love most? Money. I typed 2468, the pattern of winning he always talked about, even numbers ascending. Error. One more try before it locked me out for an hour. I remembered something he told me once when we were dating. Bia, the most important day of my life wasn't meeting you. No offense, it was the day I made my first million. April 12th, 1998. He had the date engraved on a plaque on his desk. I typed 041298. Click. Whir! The heavy steel bolts retracted. I pulled the handle. The door swung open. There were stacks of cash, rubber-banded bricks of $100 bills. There were passports, 2 of them, one under a different name. And there on the top shelf was my mother's wooden jewelry box. I opened it. The gold necklace glinted in the dim basement light. The heavy bangles, the earrings. He hadn't even taken them out of the box. He had just locked my history away in his dungeon. I grabbed the jewelry box. I grabbed the passports. I grabbed the stacks of cash. I counted quickly. It was about $50,000. I didn't take everything. If I took everything, he would know immediately. I needed to be smarter than a smash and grab. I needed the $2.4 million in the bank. I put the jewelry box in my laundry basket, burying it under towels. I put the cash and passports in there too. I closed the safe. I locked it. I went upstairs and hid the items in the one place Kenneth never looked, the crawl space behind the Christmas decorations in the attic. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out my phone. I had the evidence of the affair. I had the evidence of the hidden assets. I had my jewelry back. But I wasn't done. He was planning to leave on November 15th. That gave me 3 weeks. 3 weeks to drain that account. 3 weeks to ensure that when he arrived at the airport for his flight to Belize, the only thing waiting for him was handcuffs. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 20 years. Hello? A sharp voice answered. Lorraine, I said. It's Beatrice. Lorraine was my cousin. She was also a forensic accountant for the FBI before she went into private practice as a divorce asset recovery specialist. She was the scariest woman I knew. BA? She sounded surprised. Is everything okay? No, I said. Kenneth has $2 million in a hidden account, a mistress named Elena, and a one-way ticket to Belize. I need to steal it all before he leaves. There was a silence on the line. Then the sound of a cigarette lighter flicking on. I'm listening, Lorraine said. Start from the beginning. Lorraine didn't work out of a glass-walled office downtown. She worked out of a converted carriage house behind her home in Marietta, surrounded by 3 rescue Dobermans and enough server power to launch a shuttle. When I walked in, carrying a Tupperware of lemon squares, old habits die hard, and the terrifying knowledge that I was about to rob my husband, Lorraine didn't hug me. She pointed to a chair and spun a monitor around. I ran a preliminary background check on Elena Rostova, Lorraine said, her voice gravelly from years of chain smoking. She's not just a mistress, Bia. She's a closer. She works for a luxury real estate firm in Miami that specializes in moving assets for morally flexible expatriates. Kenneth isn't just buying a condo, he's buying a new identity. I sat down, the lemon squares trembling in my lap. He has a fake passport in the safe. The name is Arthur Pence. Arthur Pence, Lorraine scoffed, typing it into her system. Unimaginative. He used his middle name and his mother's maiden name. Amateur hour. Okay, here's the situation. The $2.4 million is currently sitting in First City. If we try to transfer it all at once to your account, the bank freezes it for fraud analysis. Kenneth gets an alert, and he disappears before we get a dime. So we can't take it? I felt the panic rising again. We can't steal it, Lorraine corrected, lighting a cigarette despite the no smoking sign on her own wall. We have to make him send it to us. Why would he do that? He's buying a condo in Belize, right? $1.2 million. Yes, the brochure was in his desk. Real estate deals like that require a wire transfer, Lorraine explained, her eyes gleaming behind her glasses. He's going to receive wiring instructions from the developer. Account number, routing number, SWIFT code. He will input those numbers into his bank app and hit send. He thinks he's paying for paradise. She leaned forward. We are going to change the destination. How? You have access to his email? I know his password. It's the same as the safe. Good. Tonight, you are going to log into his email. You are going to set up a filter for any emails coming from Azure Paradise or the developer. When the real wiring instructions come in, you delete them. Then, you send a fake email from an address that looks identical, containing our wiring instructions. Your instructions? I have a shell corporation set up in the Caymans, Lorraine said calmly. Blue Horizon Holdings. Sounds legitimate, right? He wires the money to Blue Horizon. I bounce it through 3 different accounts to clean it, and then deposit it into a trust in your name. He thinks he bought a condo. He actually just funded your divorce. That's wire fraud, Lorraine. It's asset recovery, she said, blowing smoke at the ceiling. He stole your jewelry. He stole your pension. We're just correcting the balance sheet. Are you in, or do you want to go back to being a victim? I thought about the old stuff comment. I thought about Elena. I'm in. Good. Now, what about the other $1 million? I'll handle that, I said, a cold resolve settling over me. I have the cash from the safe, and I have the jewelry. That leaves about $1.1 million in the account after he pays for the condo. I need his face. His face? The bank app requires Face ID for transfers over $10,000 unless you have the physical RSA token, which he keeps on his keychain. I can't steal the keychain. He'll notice. I have to use his face. Lorraine grinned. It was a terrifying sight. You gonna hold the phone up to him while he sleeps? He's a light sleeper, I said. I have a better idea. Kenneth loves his scotch, and he loves to brag. I'm throwing him a party. 3 days later, the Reynolds household was buzzing. I had organized a victory dinner to celebrate Kenneth's success over the IRS. I invited his golf buddies, his old business partners, the very people he had lied to about being broke. Kenneth loved it. He preened like a peacock, wearing a tuxedo jacket with jeans, pouring expensive scotch for his friends, spinning tales about how he negotiated with the feds and won. I played the doting wife. I refilled glasses. I laughed at his jokes. I wore a high-neck dress, conspicuously missing my gold necklace. When one of the wives asked where it was, Kenneth jumped in. Oh, it's at the cleaners, he laughed nervously. Getting polished. Only the best for my Bia. I smiled. That's right. He takes such good care of me. As the night wore on, I made sure Kenneth's glass was never empty. I was pouring him the good stuff, Johnny Walker Blue, but I was spiking it. Not with drugs. I wasn't trying to kill him, but with sheer volume. Every time he turned his head, I topped him off. By 11 p.m., the guests had left. Kenneth was stumbling around the living room, slurring his words about buying a boat. "We did it, Bia," he mumbled, draping a heavy arm around me. "We're untouchable." "You sure are, honey," I said, guiding him to the recliner. "Why don't you rest your eyes? I'll clean up." "You're a good woman," he sighed, sinking into the leather. "The best." He passed out within 5 minutes. His snoring rattled the windows. I moved quickly. I took his phone from his pocket. I unlocked it with the passcode. I opened the First City Bank app. Face ID required. I held the phone up to his sleeping face. Nothing. His eyes were closed. The technology required attention. Open eyes. I panicked for a second. Then I remembered a trick one of my students had shown me years ago when trying to unlock a friend's phone in class. I gently, very gently, used my thumbs to lift his eyelids. It was grotesque. His eyes were glassy, unfocused, rolling back slightly. "Try again." "Look at me, Kenneth," I whispered, angling the phone. "Look at what you did." Click. Access granted. I was in. I didn't transfer the money to me. That was too obvious. I went to the bill pay section. I added a new payee. LR Consulting, Lorraine's domestic front. I set up a transfer for $900,000. It was just under the $1 million limit for instant transfers. I hit confirm. Face ID required. I pried his eyes open again. He groaned and tried to swat my hand away. My heart hammered. If he woke up now, it was over. "Shh," I cooed, stroking his hair with one hand while holding his eye open with the other. "Go back to sleep, baby. It's all a dream." Click. Transfer initiated. The money vanished from the screen. I deleted the confirmation text that popped up. I closed the app. I wiped the phone. I put it back in his pocket. I stood over him, watching him sleep. He was down nearly $1 million, and he didn't even know it. But the big hit, the condo wire, was still to come. I went to his home office. I logged into his email. There it was. An unread email from sales@azureparadisebelize.com. Subject, wiring instructions for Unit 402. I opened it. I took a screenshot of the legitimate instructions just in case I needed them for evidence later. Then I forwarded the email to Lorraine. I deleted the original from his inbox. I deleted it from his trash. 10 minutes later, a new email appeared in his inbox. It looked exactly the same. Same logo, same font, same subject line. But the reply to address was slightly different. An invisible difference to a drunk man in a hurry, but clear to me. And the account number inside pointed directly to the Caymans. I marked the email as unread. I turned off the computer. I went back to the living room. Kenneth was still snoring. I poured myself a glass of the cheap wine I usually drank. I sat in the chair opposite him. "You wanted to leave me with nothing, Ken," I whispered into the dark room. "You wanted to trade me in for a younger model and a beach house." I took a sip. "Well, you bought the house. I hope you enjoy the view from prison." The next morning, Kenneth woke up with a hangover that could kill a horse. He sat at the kitchen table, clutching his head, drinking coffee. "God, what happened last night?" he groaned. "I feel like I got hit by a truck." "You had fun," I said, frying bacon. "You were celebrating." He pulled out his phone. He squinted at the screen. My breath held. Was he checking the balance? "Weird," he muttered. "What is it?" I asked, turning the bacon. "I have a notification that a transfer is pending. 900 grand. He rubbed his eyes. "I don't remember doing that." "You were talking about moving money to the offshore holding last night." "Yes," I lied smoothly. "You said you wanted to secure it before we traveled. You were very insistent." He paused. The fog of the alcohol battled with his paranoia. "Right," he said slowly, convincing himself. "Right. The holding account. Good, that's good. Smart move, drunk Kenneth." He laughed. "I'm a genius, B. Even when I'm wasted, I'm making moves." "You sure are," I said, sliding a plate of eggs in front of him. "Oh," he perked up. "The email came in, the wiring instructions for the condo." He tapped his phone. "I need to send this today to lock in the price." "Do you want me to help you?" I asked. "Your hands are shaking." "No, no," he said, focusing intently. "I got it. $1.2 million. Wiring to Blue Horizon Holdings." "That sounds right. Developers always have weird names." He typed in the numbers. He held the phone up to his face. His eyes were bloodshot but open. "Click. Sent," he announced, slamming the phone down on the table. "It's done, B. We own a penthouse." "We?" I asked. "Well, you know," he winked. "Eventually." He stood up and hugged me. "I have to go to the office. Pack a bag, B. We might take a little trip sooner than expected." He walked out the door, whistling. I waited until his car left the driveway. Then I picked up my phone and called Lorraine. Did it hit? I asked. Both of them. Lorraine's voice crackled with glee. The $900 is already in the trust. The $1.2 million wire just landed in the Cayman shell. I'm moving it now. By the time he reaches the office, that money will be in Switzerland. How much does he have left? About $300,000, Lorraine said. Enough to pay for a lawyer, but not enough to buy his way out of what comes next. What comes next? Now, Lorraine said, we pull the rug. No, I said, looking at the empty spot on the wall where my mother's picture used to hang before he made me take it down for being tacky. Now, I said, I give him the parting gift. I went to the attic. I retrieved the passports. I retrieved the cash. I retrieved the jewelry box. I put the jewelry back in the master bedroom closet, right where it belonged. I put the fake passport, the one for Arthur Pence, on the kitchen counter. And then I called the IRS. Not the fake line Kenneth pretended to call, the real one. Specifically, the Criminal Investigation Division. Hello, I said when the agent answered. My name is Beatrice Reynolds. I would like to report a case of tax evasion, money laundering, and identity fraud. And I have the location of the suspect, the evidence of his offshore accounts, and his flight itinerary for a non-extradition country. We're listening, the agent said. One more thing, I added. He's carrying a fake passport. You might want to hurry. He thinks he's leaving for Belize on the 15th, but I think he's going to be leaving a lot sooner than that. I hung up. I packed a bag. Not for Belize, for a hotel downtown. I wrote a note and left it next to the fake passport. Kenneth, you bought the jewelry back, but you lost the wife. The condo in Belize is lovely, I'm sure. Shame you'll never see it. P.S. I took the gold. Consider it my severance package. B.A. I walked out of the house. I got in my car. I didn't look back. But the story wasn't over, because Kenneth Reynolds was a cockroach, and cockroaches are hard to kill. I knew he wouldn't go down without a fight, and I was counting on it. I sat in the high-backed armchair of a suite at the St. Regis, a glass of Sancerre in my hand, watching the most satisfying reality show ever broadcast. It wasn't on cable. It was streaming live to my iPad from the hidden security cameras I had installed in our living room 3 years ago to keep an eye on the cleaning lady. I had never told Kenneth about them. He thought the only cameras were on the exterior. He thought he was alone in his castle. But as I watched him storm through the front door at 2:15 p.m., his face a mask of purple rage, I knew he was realizing that his castle was actually a cage. He had checked the bank. I could see it in the way he moved, jerky, frantic, like a marionette with tangled strings. He threw his briefcase across the room. It hit the wall with a sickening thud, spilling papers everywhere. He pulled out his phone, tapped furiously, and then screamed. It wasn't a word. It was a primal sound of loss. He had opened the First City app expecting to see $2.4 million, and instead, he saw a balance that wouldn't cover a tank of gas. He ran to the kitchen. I switched the camera feed. He saw the note. He saw the fake passport lying on the granite counter. The passport for Arthur Pence that was supposed to be his ticket to freedom. He picked up the note. He read it. I watched him crumple it in his fist. He swept the passport onto the floor. He kicked the kitchen island so hard I winced, imagining the bone bruising. Then my phone rang. Husband. I took a sip of wine. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I answered on the 4th ring. Hello, Kenneth, I said, my voice as cool as the condensation on my glass. How was work? You witch, he shrieked. The sound distorted over the line. You stole it. You stole everything. I'm going to kill you, Beatrice. I swear to God, I will hunt you down and I will wring your neck. You're going to have a hard time hunting anyone with no gas money, I said. Did the wire transfer not go through? I heard real estate in the Caymans is booming this time of year. That's wire fraud, he screamed. That's grand larceny. I'm calling the police. I'm going to tell them you hacked my accounts. You'll rot in prison. Go ahead, I challenged. Call the police. Tell them your wife stole the $2 million you were hiding from the IRS. Tell them about the source of those funds, Ken. Tell them about the crypto laundering. I'm sure they'll be very interested in the origin story of your nest egg. He went silent. The heavy breathing on the other end was erratic. He knew I had him checkmated. If he reported the theft, he admitted the crime. Why? He whispered, his voice cracking. I bought the jewelry back. I was going to take care of you. You were going to leave me on November 15th, I said, with a foreclosed house and a broken heart. You were taking Elena. I saw the itinerary, Ken. I saw the brochure. Elena meant nothing, he lied, desperate now. She was just a contact. B, listen, we can fix this. Bring the money back. We can split it, 50-50. We run together, tonight. I can get new passports. We can go anywhere. I'm already gone, Kenneth, I said, and I didn't take 50%. I took my severance, plus interest. You can't do this, he wailed. The IRS is looking for me. If I don't have the money to pay them off, they'll put me under the jail. I know, I said. That's why I called them. You what? I called Agent Miller about an hour ago, I said calmly. I told him you were a flight risk. I told him about Arthur Pence. I told him you were currently at the residence packing a bag. I looked at the iPad screen. Kenneth dropped the phone. He looked at the window. Through the camera's microphone, I heard it. The distant, rising wail of sirens. Kenneth heard it too. Panic took over. He grabbed the fake passport off the floor. He ran to the hallway closet, the one where I had taken the jewelry from. He was looking for his emergency cash stash, but I had taken that too. He came up empty-handed. He spun around, wild-eyed. He grabbed his car keys. He ran out the back door. I switched the feed to the backyard camera. Kenneth was sprinting toward the detached garage where he kept his precious vintage Mustang, the one car he hadn't sold. He fumbled with the keypad. The door started to rise, but he was too slow. The sirens were deafening now. I heard the screech of tires out front. Boom! The front door of the house, my beautiful mahogany door, was rammed open. Federal agents! Search warrant! A team of agents in windbreakers swarmed the house. I watched on the living room feed as they cleared the rooms with guns drawn. Kenneth was in the garage now, reversing the Mustang. He tore out of the driveway, smashing through the wooden gate of the back fence, tires smoking. He was running. I sat back in my hotel chair. He had escaped the initial net. My phone buzzed. It was Lorraine. He's on the move. Traffic cams picked up the Mustang heading south on I-85. Where is he going? The airport? No, he's heading toward Buckhead, toward the luxury high-rises. Elena, he was going to the mistress. He thought she was his safety net. He probably thought she had money, or at least a place to hide. I smiled. Kenneth never understood women. He thought Elena was in love with him. He didn't realize she was in love with the idea of him. I opened my contacts. I had done my research on Elena Rostova. I had her cell number. Kenneth had synced his contacts to the cloud, and I had access to the cloud. I sent a text to Elena Rostova from Beatrice Reynolds, subject urgent update. Hello, Elena. This is Kenneth's wife. I know he's on his way to you. Before you open the door, you should know two things. 1, the FBI is about 10 minutes behind him. 2, he has exactly $0 to his name. I emptied the accounts this morning. He is not a millionaire. He is a fugitive with a maxed out credit card. Do with this information what you will. I attached a screenshot of his bank balance showing $9. I hit send. Then I waited. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It wasn't Kenneth. It was Lorraine. He's at the Stellar Tower, Lorraine said, sounding amused. He's in the lobby. He's trying to get up to Penthouse B. Elena isn't buzzing him in. Is he causing a scene? Oh, yeah. He's screaming at the doorman. He's throwing planters. The police are on the way. I closed my eyes and imagined the scene. Kenneth, sweaty and desperate, pounding on the glass, realizing that his trophy mistress didn't want a broke loser. It's over, I whispered. But it wasn't, because cockroaches survive nukes. Buh, Lorraine said, her voice changing tone. Something is wrong. The police arrived, but they aren't arresting him. What? They're talking to him. He's showing them something on his phone. He's pointing at the camera crews. What is he doing? He's getting in the back of the police car, but he's not cuffed. Get out of the hotel. Why? Because he just played the reverse card, Lorraine said urgently. I'm tapping the police dispatch frequency. Kenneth just told the officers that you are the mastermind. He claims you coerced him into the fraud, stole the money, and are fleeing the country. He claims he was trying to turn himself in to protect you, and you cleaned him out to silence him. That's insane, I said, standing up. I called the IRS. I reported him. He's saying you did that to frame him, Lorraine said. He's saying you're the one with the offshore accounts. which technically you are right now because of the wire transfer I set up. If they look at the Blue Horizon account, your name is on the trust, not his. My blood ran cold. I had set up the trap perfectly, but in doing so, I had put my name on the stolen money. They issued a bolo, Lorraine said. Be on the lookout. Beatrice Reynolds, suspected of grand larceny and corporate fraud, armed and dangerous. Armed? He told them you have his gun, the one from the safe. I looked at my laundry basket in the corner of the hotel room. I had taken the cash. I had taken the jewelry, but I hadn't taken the gun. He's lying, I said. The gun is in the house. The feds will find it. Unless he took it with him and ditched it in your car before he left, Lorraine said. Where is your car, B? Valet parking, downstairs. Get to it, Lorraine barked. Check the trunk, now. I hung up. I grabbed my purse. I ran out of the room. I didn't take the elevator. I took the stairs, all 12 flights. My knees screamed, but my survival instinct screamed louder. I burst into the parking garage. I found my sensible sedan. I popped the trunk. There, nestled between my spare tire and the jack, was a black Glock 19, Kenneth's gun. He must have planted it days ago. Just in case. He knew I might find out. He knew he might need a fall guy. He had set me up as his insurance policy. If the police found me with the stolen money and the stolen gun, his story would look credible. He would claim he was the victim of a manipulative wife. He would cut a deal, and I would go to prison for his crimes. I heard tires screeching in the garage. A police cruiser turned the corner. They had tracked my phone, or my car's GPS. I was trapped. I slammed the trunk shut. I couldn't run. They would see me. I ducked behind a concrete pillar. The cruiser stopped next to my car. 2 officers got out, guns drawn. Clear the vehicle, one shouted. They approached my car. They saw the bag in the front seat, my decoy bag. I was 20 feet away, pressing myself into the shadows. I had the cash in my purse. I had the jewelry in my pocket. But the money, the millions, was in an account that traced back to me. I needed to disappear. But I was a 54-year-old school administrator. I didn't know how to disappear. I looked at my phone. Lorraine. I texted her. They are at my car? I'm hiding. Help. Lorraine replied instantly. There's a service elevator in the northeast corner. It goes to the alley. My associate Tiny is waiting in a laundry van. Go now. I ran. I kept low, moving between the parked cars. Hey, stop. One of the officers spotted me. Freeze! Federal agents. It wasn't the police. It was the IRS agents. I didn't freeze. I ran faster than I had ever run in my life. I hit the service elevator button. It was already open. I threw myself inside and slammed the closed door button. The agents were 10 feet away. The doors slid shut just as a hand reached out to grab them. The elevator descended. My heart was exploding in my chest. I had the money. I had the truth. But now I was the fugitive. Kenneth had turned the board around. He was willing to burn us both down as long as I burned first. The elevator opened into the alley. A dirty white van was idling there. A massive man with a shaved head opened the side door. Get in, Mrs. Reynolds, he grunted. I jumped in. The van peeled away before the door was even closed. I sat on the floor of the van, surrounded by bags of dirty hotel linens. I pulled out my phone. I had 1 card left to play. Kenneth thought he had pinned the fraud on me because the money was in my name, but he forgot about the second set of books. The physical ledger he kept in the safe. The one I hadn't taken because I thought the digital proof was enough. It was still in the house. If the feds found that ledger, it proved Kenneth was the architect. But if Kenneth got back to the house first, if he had a way to get back in, he would destroy it. I texted Lorraine, the ledger, in the basement safe. Did you get the digital copy? No. You didn't scan it. I cursed. I had been so focused on the cash and the jewelry. The feds are at the house. They'll find it. Kenneth just posted bail. His lawyer pulled a miracle. He's out, and he's heading back to the house to cooperate with the investigation. He was going back to destroy the evidence while pretending to help. Turn around, I yelled to Tiny. What? The big man asked, looking in the rearview mirror. We have to go back to the house, I said. I have to get to the basement before he does. Lady, the place is swarming with cops, Tiny said. I know the way in, I said. The crawl space in the garden. He doesn't know I know about it. It leads directly to the wine cellar. You want to break into a crime scene while the FBI is there? I want my life back, I said, clutching my mother's necklace in my pocket. Turn the van around. Tiny sighed. He spun the wheel. I was going back. Not as a wife, not as a victim, but as a thief in the night. It was race. Kenneth versus me, the liar versus the fixer. And only one of us was walking out of that basement with freedom. The crawl space under my own house smelled of damp earth, rot, and the ghosts of 20 years of manicured gardening. I dragged myself on my elbows through the narrow tunnel of dirt, my linen pants ruined, my knuckles scraping against rocks. Above me, I could hear the heavy thud of footsteps on the hardwood floors. Kenneth was home. And he wasn't moving like a man who was cooperating with the authorities. He was moving like a man looking for a match to burn the evidence. Tiny had dropped me off a block away, and I had shimmied through the loose lattice of the back porch like a teenager sneaking out past curfew. I wasn't a teenager, though. I was a 54-year-old retired school administrator with a bad knee and a stolen fortune in the cloud, crawling through the mud to save my life. I reached the hidden panel that led to the wine cellar. Kenneth had installed it years ago to move crates of Bordeaux without walking through the kitchen. He thought he was so clever. He never thought his wife paid attention to the blueprints. I pushed the panel up. It groaned. I froze. The footsteps above stopped. I held my breath. Dust motes danced in the sliver of light from the cellar. The footsteps resumed, moving away toward the bedrooms. He was looking for me, or the gun. Or maybe he was just trashing the place in a fit of rage. I pushed the panel open and scrambled up into the cool, climate-controlled air of the wine cellar. I didn't have much time. The safe was 10 feet away, behind the rack of Merlots. I ran to it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type the code, 041298. Click. The door swung open. It was empty. My heart stopped. I stared into the black void of the steel box. I had taken the cash. I had taken the jewelry, but I hadn't taken the ledger. I had seen it, a black, leather-bound book pushed to the back, but I had left it. And now it was gone. Looking for this? The voice came from the stairs. I spun around. Kenneth stood on the bottom step. He looked deranged. His expensive suit was torn, his eyes were bloodshot, and he was holding the black ledger in one hand and a fireplace poker in the other. "You really are a pest, Beatrice," he sneered, stepping onto the concrete floor. "I thought you'd be halfway to Mexico by now. But no, you just had to come back for the receipt." "It's over, Kenneth," I said, backing up against the wine rack. "The FBI is outside. They saw you come in. The FBI is busy chasing a decoy car I hired to drive south on I-75, he laughed, a jagged, manic sound. "I have about 10 minutes before they realize I'm not in it. 10 minutes to burn this book, grab the diamonds you stole, and disappear." He took a step closer, raising the iron poker. "Where is the jewelry, Bia? And where is the money?" "I checked the accounts. You drained them. How? You don't even know how to use the remote control properly." "I learned," I said, my hand searching behind me for a weapon. My fingers closed around the neck of a heavy bottle, a 1998 Cabernet, fitting. "I learned that you're a liar. I learned that you were going to trade me in for a condo in Belize. And I learned that you aren't a genius, Kenneth. You're just a thief with a good tailor." His face twisted. "I built this life for you. You were nothing. A school secretary." "Administrator," I shouted. "And I was the one who made sure the bills were paid while you were playing entrepreneur with my pension. I was the safety net, and you cut me loose." "And now I'm going to finish the job?" he growled. He lunged. He swung the poker at my head. I ducked. The iron smashed into the wine rack, shattering 3 bottles. Red wine exploded like blood, spraying over us. I swung the bottle in my hand. I wasn't aiming for his head. I aimed for his knee. Crack. The bottle connected. Kenneth howled, dropping to one knee. The ledger fell from his hand, sliding across the wet floor. I scrambled for it. "No," he screamed, grabbing my ankle. He dragged me back. I kicked him, my heel connecting with his jaw. He grunted, but didn't let go. He crawled on top of me, pinning me to the wine-soaked concrete. His hands went for my throat. "You ruined everything," he spat, squeezing. I couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in my vision. I clawed at his face, but he was too heavy, too fueled by desperate rage. "Die," he whispered. "Just die." My hand flailed on the floor. It brushed against something cold and hard. The fireplace poker he had dropped. I gripped it. With the last ounce of strength I had, I swung it backward blindly. It connected with the back of his head with a sickening thud. Kenneth's grip loosened. His eyes rolled back. He slumped forward, his dead weight crushing the air out of my lungs. I shoved him off me, gasping, coughing, sucking in the cool air. I crawled away from him. He was groaning, clutching his head, blood seeping through his fingers. He wasn't dead, but he was done. I grabbed the ledger. I stood up, swaying. I looked down at the man I had loved for 15 years. He looked pathetic, small. "You forgot one thing, Kenneth," I rasped, clutching the book to my chest. "What?" he wheezed, looking up at me with hate-filled eyes. "I didn't come alone." I pointed to the ceiling. From the ventilation shaft I had just climbed out of, a small red light was blinking. "Lorraine isn't just an accountant," I said. "She's paranoid. She bugged the house 3 days ago when she came over to inspect the HVAC. She's been listening to everything, and she patched the audio through to Agent Miller." Kenneth's eyes went wide. From the top of the stairs, the door burst open. "Federal agents, drop the weapon!" A dozen tactical lights flooded the dark cellar. I dropped the poker. I held up the ledger. "I have the evidence!" I shouted. "I'm the wife! He confessed!" The agents swarmed down the stairs. They kicked the poker away. They zip-tied Kenneth's hands behind his back while he was still on the floor. One agent, a tall man with a stern face, Agent Miller, approached me. He looked at the wine soaking my clothes, the bruise forming on my neck, and the black book in my hands. "Mrs. Reynolds?" he asked. "Miss Washington," I corrected, using my maiden name. "I believe this belongs to you." I handed him the ledger. "He kept 2 sets of books," I said, my voice steadying. "This one lists the shell companies, the crypto laundering, and the offshore accounts. It also proves he forged my signature on the tax returns for the last 5 years." Miller opened the book. He scanned a page. He looked at Kenneth, who was being hauled up the stairs weeping. "And the money?" Miller asked, looking at me sharply. "The accounts are empty, Miss Washington. Where is the $2 million?" I looked him dead in the eye. "He spent it," I lied. "Gambling, bad investments. Why do you think he was trying to kill me? He was broke and looking for an insurance payout." Miller looked at me. He looked at the bruises on my neck. He looked at the undeniable evidence I had just handed him on a silver platter. He knew. Somewhere deep down, he knew. But he also knew that without me, he didn't have the ledger. And without the ledger, Kenneth might walk. "Get yourself checked out by the paramedics," Miller said, closing the book. "We'll need a formal statement tomorrow." "I'll be there," I said. I walked up the stairs, past my husband, who was being shoved into a police cruiser. He screamed at me as I passed. "She has it! She has the money! Check her offshore accounts!" "Get him out of here," Miller ordered. I walked out of the house. The cool night air felt like baptism. Tiny was waiting by the laundry van, looking concerned. Lorraine was in her car down the street, giving me a subtle thumbs up. I didn't go to the hospital. I went to a quiet motel 2 towns over. I showered for an hour, scrubbing the wine and the feeling of Kenneth's hands off my skin. Then, I sat on the bed and opened my laptop. I logged into the secure portal Lorraine had set up. Blue Horizon Holdings. Balance, $20,100. I didn't feel guilty. I had sold my mother's jewelry to save a man who tried to kill me. I had reclaimed the value of that jewelry plus 20 years of unpaid labor as a wife, secretary, and emotional punching bag. I clicked transfer. The money moved again. This time, to a numbered account in Zurich that Lorraine assured me was impenetrable. I closed the laptop. I went to my purse and pulled out the velvet box. I opened it. The gold shone under the cheap motel lights, my mother's necklace, her bangles, her earrings. I put them on. The weight of the gold felt grounding. It felt like armor. "I kept the gold, Mama," I whispered. Epilogue, 6 months later. The cafe in Paris was exactly how I imagined it would be. The coffee was strong, the croissant was flaky, and the view of the Seine was uninterrupted. I adjusted my sunglasses. I was wearing a new dress, silk, expensive, blue. And around my neck, the heavy gold chain glinted in the French sun. I picked up the International Herald Tribune someone had left on the table. There was a small blurb in the business section. Atlanta businessman sentenced to 15 years for massive tax fraud scheme. I smiled. Kenneth had tried to cut a deal, but the ledger was too damning. And since the money was gone, lost to bad crypto bets, according to the narrative Lorraine helped craft, he had no restitution to offer. He went away for a long time. Elena Rostova had been indicted as a co-conspirator. It turned out she wasn't just Kenneth's mistress, she was helping him hide assets for the cartel connections he had dabbled in. She wouldn't be seeing a penthouse anytime soon either. I took a sip of my coffee. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lorraine. Lorraine, the trust is fully vested. You're officially a ghost, Bea. Enjoy the croissant. I put the phone down. I wasn't Beatrice Reynolds anymore. I wasn't the school administrator who fixed everyone else's problems while ignoring her own. I was a woman of means, a woman of history, a woman who knew the exact weight of her own worth. A handsome waiter walked by. He smiled at me. More coffee, madam? Yes, please, I said, touching the gold at my throat. And bring the dessert menu. I think I've earned something sweet. I watched the river flow. The current was strong, relentless, washing away the debris of the past. I was finally swimming downstream,